everybody, it's Adrienne for WDW Bound, and today I want to give you my top 5 tips for a quick trip to Walt Disney World. We at WDW Bound tend to take short weekend trips, sometimes Thursday to Sunday, sometimes just Friday to Sunday. It just depends kind of when we can take off work and manage that kind of our work schedules. And so over the years, we have kind of, I don't want to say perfected, but kind of how to take a quick trip. So let's start with tip number 1, and that is park hop. When you only have a couple of days in the parks, you're going to want, I can't choose parks to leave out. I can't. They're like choosing a favorite child. I can't. So when we take quick trips, before we were annual pass holders, we always went ahead and splurged for the upgrade for a park hopper ticket. And now that that has returned in 2021, we feel like that is once again a tip that we can pass on. We feel like being able to visit each park, even if it's just for a couple of hours, helps us to feel like we've had the full Walt Disney World experience. So absolutely, if you are taking a very short trip where you only get 2 to 3 park days, then we feel like park hopper tickets are the way to go. Now again, we talked about park hopping in other videos, but just as a quick reminder, you can park hop from park to park so long as there is capacity and availability in the park that you're wishing to go to. However, you cannot visit that park until 2 p.m. So you have to have gone to the park that you had a park pass reservation for that morning at some point during the day, and then you'll be able to call the number, which again, I will link it down below, and see if there's park pass availability or whether you would like to go next. And then you'll be able to go to that park. And I do always recommend calling that number because I can't think of anything more devastating than going to a park just to find out it's full and not being able to park hop there after all. To kind of go along with that, tip number 2 is to be aware of your park hours. We mentioned this in a previous video, but when we went for our most recent kind of short trip and did park hopping, we strategically chose which park we were going to have our park pass reservation for and where we went subsequently throughout the day. We went to 3 separate parks that day. We started with our park pass reservation in Hollywood Studios because we wanted a Rise of the Resistance boarding pass, and you have to have a park pass to even try at 7 a.m. And then you have to be in the park at 1 p.m. if you want to, again, have a chance to get onto that attraction with a boarding group. So it was important for us to have a park pass reservation. So we had a park pass reservation at Hollywood Studios, and then we park hopped to Animal Kingdom starting at 2 p.m. and that park was only open until 5 p.m. that day. So we had a solid 3 hours where we were able to eat lunch. We went on the safari, and then just kind of walked around and had a few snacks and, took pictures or whatever. We didn't even attempt Pandora because we knew that it would be insane for those couple of hours. But then after it closed, we then park hopped to Epcot for the evening, which didn't close until 9 p.m. So we were able to hit 3 separate parks. We never found that any of the parks had hit capacity, and that helped us to maximize our experience that day. Number 3 tip, choose your resort carefully. And I say this because some resorts have locations that are better on a quick trip. For example, if we didn't on this trip, but we could have stayed in one of the Epcot area resorts, which would have allowed us to be very close to Hollywood Studios and close to Epcot, and we could have walked or taken the Skyliner or a bus or whatever, boat to both of those parks, and with minimal time in between. It wouldn't have been a long bus ride, it wouldn't have been a long car ride, since we often drive and have our own vehicle down there, and that again helps us to maximize the amount of times that we're in the parks. Other good resort options are in the value category. You might want to stay at Art of Animation or Pop Century. Both of those have access to the Skyliner, so once again that gives you pretty quick access to both Hollywood Studios and Epcot. If Magic Kingdom is important to you, then perhaps splurging and staying at one of the Magic Kingdom resorts would be a good option. We've stayed at Wilderness Lodge when we've wanted to spend a lot of time in Magic Kingdom. It's just a quick boat ride over. We've stayed in at the Contemporary, and we've stayed at the Polynesian, and are able to either walk there. Grand Floridian now has a walkway, so you can walk to Magic Kingdom. And you know, there's also the monorail system. So sometimes if Magic Kingdom is important to you, then staying in one of those resorts might be a good option. Again, going back to the Skyliner, you could stay at Caribbean Beach and in the moderate category, and it would be, again, give you quick access to Hollywood Studios and Epcot. If you want to really splurge and stay at one of the newest resorts, you could go to the Riviera, which has the closest walk probably to the Skyliner station. And unfortunately, unless if you want to have quick access to Animal Kingdom, really your only option is Animal Kingdom Lodge, but even it doesn't have direct transportation access. You would still have to either drive or take a bus. But either way, we have found that, for example, we've gone down for a weekend just to hit the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party. And so on those trips, we stayed at the Contemporary and we stayed at Wilderness Lodge because we knew we would have quick access there, quick access back, especially if we were finishing our night at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And we knew we would be dragging and didn't want to, you know, spend an hour on Disney transportation or waiting on Disney transportation. On times that we have gone for a festival, or we went specifically for the Galaxy's Edge preview, then we wanted to stay in an Epcot area resort. I think we stayed at Boardwalk that weekend so that we could walk over quickly. All right, tip number 4, pick a few must-dos. So if you're gonna only spend, say, 2 days in the parks, you're gonna have to, again, manage your expectations and understand that you're not going to be able to do everything. I mentioned earlier that when we went to Animal Kingdom, we only had 3 hours. So we knew that Flight of Passage probably was not going to happen for us. It could have, but we would have been in line for 2 hours of the 3 hours that we were there. And that just wasn't something that we wanted to do. So instead we opted to have lunch and to go on a safari and kind of walk around, and understanding that those were the must-dos that we had chosen. When we went to Hollywood Studios that morning and knowing that we only had a few hours in there, Galaxy's Edge is where we spent the majority of our time because my kids love it. They love Star Wars, so that's kind of where we wanted to be. So we picked just a few things that we wanted to do, and then kind of everything else is just, you know, icing on the cake. All right, tip number 5, my last tip for a quick trip to Walt Disney World. Choose either few or maybe no table service restaurants. So anytime you do a table service sit down restaurant reservation, you're going to be spending at least an hour to up to maybe 2 hours, depending on the restaurant, dining, which is fine, don't get me wrong. But when you're trying to maximize your time in the parks, that might not be the best way to do it. However, if this is something that's important to you, if it's a reservation that you've always wanted, or a place that you've always wanted to eat or experience, then it might be a good idea. And then sometimes that's the best way to experience other things. For example, when we went on our last trip, we had lunch at Tony's restaurant in Magic Kingdom. And for us, it wasn't so much about the dining, but we wanted outdoor patio seating so that we could watch the character cavalcades as they went by. We watched the Dapper Dans up at the train station. So it wasn't necessarily about the food. It was about what we would be able to experience along with the food. In the past, we've had dining reservations in Epcot just so that we could have a dining package for the candlelight processional in Epcot, so that we didn't spend a majority of our time in line, in the standby line, for that experience. So we were able to have dinner, and we had dinner at Via Napoli, so it's not a super long dining experience. And then it maximized our time because after dinner, we were able to go and experience the rest of the parks before it was time for our candlelight processional. So used strategically, table service restaurants can benefit you in a quick trip, but I wouldn't recommend necessarily having a sit-down reservation for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, just because that will take up a lot of your time and then therefore you won't be able to have as much time for attractions and other snacks and walking around and doing the picture thing like I do. All right, guys, those are my top 5 tips for a quick trip for a Walt Disney World weekend. If you have any extra tips, please leave them in the comments below. I'd like to see them. As always, we thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.